Autistic people of Reddit, what would you like everyone to know? If I'm looking at your shoes or behind you when I'm talking to you, it means I'm paying attention to what you're saying. I'm not ignoring you. People who have bullied me in the past bullied me because I'm different and they made me hate who I truly was. As I got older, I learned to love myself and learned to embrace my flaws. Oh, info dumping. Opted to mention it because the sheer amount of horrid things that I have seen being aimed at autistic people for info dumping is nasty. We often get special interests in things, and enjoy gathering information and talking to others about them. We find someone to talk to about it and everything comes out. Talk your ear off for hours easily, and the details will often be very intricate. We don't mean anything other than being excited about the thing. We don't always catch on that you're not interested in the intricacies of George Carter's relationship with the Chiss ascendancy. Sorry, it's not us trying to show off, to look superior, being elitist, or gatekeeping. We're just excited over something we enjoy. I had to get diagnosed in my mid-20s so that people would finally accept that I have difficulties. I didn't want to get diagnosed, but I felt forced to, just so I could prove once and for all that it's not me choosing to be a difficult person. In the UK the process takes so much time and in the end you can't really be treated anyway, so what's the point when I already know and have accepted it? It's like if you weren't diagnosed as a kid then you're not valid. But only the kids with the most extreme symptoms get diagnosed early, and I guess that's what people think autism looks like. It really doesn't take much to adjust the way you interpret what I'm saying, or just to understand I might not be as clear as I want to be. But people will still overreact and misinterpret, despite knowing I have difficulty communicating. Even if I didn't have autism it wouldn't be unreasonable to understand that. But people in general still don't get it, even ones who rave about mental health awareness. It's like autism isn't taken as seriously as depression or anxiety because it's not urgent. It's viewed as a permanent thing that can't be cured, so it's treated like a lost limb. Anxiety and depression are easier to understand I guess and are somewhat curable with treatment and time, whereas autism is a bottom-line disability, so there's no point trying. I don't really get that, but that seems to be the attitude of a lot of people who I thought would be more understanding of mental health. Might just be me being around bad people, but my entire experience at school and university in the UK has made me feel like this is just how society is. Autistic adults exist. It's not like as soon as we turn 18 we wave our autism goodbye. Autistic women exist too. We're just harder to spot than the men. If we tell you we find something is offensive puzzle piece logo, autism dollar peaks, light it up blue, etc., believe us. Don't argue with us that we are wrong and it makes people's lives easier, or whatever crappy excuse you want to use to ignore us. Some more examples of this is people first language, autistic person versus person with autism. Some of us like one way and not the other, but no one else gets the right to tell someone they're identifying incorrectly. Functioning labels. As well, high and low functioning are commonly used, but that can be really hurtful language. Instead, high and low support needs are preferred language for most of us. The reason for that is you never really know how well someone else is functioning. They may appear to be doing really well, but they may be doing therapies once a day and have a support team that takes the burden off of them at home like me. So when you see them shopping unassisted and doing okay, it doesn't mean they can function perfectly everywhere else. Honestly, this one is what gets me the most. What do you mean you can't do this labor-intensive favor for me? You were fine yesterday when I saw you, yes? And now I need to recover or risk a meltdown. Oh, and I'm a chronic over-explainer. I have 1,000-yard stare. If you feel like I'm staring at you, I'm either not, or I'm trying to cudgel my brain into coming up with something nice to say to you. Please don't treat me like I'm a creeper or a stalker, because it's hard enough to form anything approaching human attachments, and you yelling at me to stop staring is a blow to my self-esteem. We mean well, but sometimes we say the wrong things and make everything worse. And I've got a relevant story. There's a guy at work whom I find attractive and enjoy talking to. We get along fantastically. He's married with kids. So I'd never hit on him or try to start anything. I keep it strictly platonic. About 2 weeks ago, his regular tool partner was absent, so I got partnered up with him for the first time in the 5 months I've known him. The first day we worked together, everything was great. We spent pretty much the whole day joking around, being smartasses to each other and having fun. The second day, I stepped on his knee pad. We work outside all day, and when he got irritated with me, I sassed him and was a smartass because I literally didn't realize that he was actually getting mad. Looking back, I was being a gigantic douche. But at the time I legitimately thought he was joking, and it wasn't until morning break that I realized he was mad at me. I tried to apologize, but I said the wrong things and ultimately shot myself in the foot. So I awkwardly worked in silence until lunch and didn't say a word to him unless he specifically asked me something. After lunch he seemed to lighten up a bit. He offered me a red Starburst, and when we went into our prefab area and saw clothes on the table, he asked me if I thought 2 of our colleagues were banging each other in the shitters. Normally I would have laughed and made some vulgar comments, but I was too baffled as to why he was making conversation with me. I was confused beyond belief. I simply couldn't understand why this guy who was mad at me would make a joke and try to have a conversation. So I just shrugged and said I didn't know. Was he still mad at me or not? I genuinely couldn't tell, and I didn't want to ask, so I stayed quiet for the most part. The next day his regular tool partner came back and I got paired with someone else. This was a little over 2 weeks ago, and I've been going out of my way to avoid him ever since, because I'm worried that I f***ed up big time and that things between us will never go back to the way things were. Being autistic does not mean a lack of empathy. We may not express or process our feelings the same way as neurotypical people do, but it does not mean we don't have feelings. Contrary to popular belief, we're not psychopaths. That shit's been debunked eons ago. The fact that we oftentimes don't know what to do with that information doesn't mean we don't have empathy. That not everyone with autism is like Rain Man. We can't all recite from memory what day of the week certain events happened or are servants. However, we all have different strengths, and some of us have intense interests that we know a lot about. We are not a party trick for this either. I hope this blows up because people on the spectrum need more of a voice on society. I want to know more because people aren't educated about this stuff. Great question. Just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I'm snooty or aloof and desire to be excluded. I am not autistic, but the man I love is. I want anyone neurotypical to know that being in a relationship with a person on the spectrum requires a lot of patience and adaptation, but it is so totally worth the effort. People on the spectrum are not emotionless robots, but in fact feel things very deeply. They just don't express it or show it in traditional ways. I would like people to know that people with autism are very capable of being in relationships and shouldn't be written off as undateable just because of their disorder. Sometimes my brain hard locks trying to process sentences out loud, sort of like when you can't remember a word, but for the entire sentence-forming apparatus. The analogy I use is when a program goes not responding on your computer, it's not thinking or waiting, it's just stopped, and spam clicking on it does nothing. Either have to wait for it to kick back into processing, or restart from scratch. Had a job interview where they asked me a question that I didn't have an answer prepared for, and I spent a very awkward what felt like 5 minutes 30 or so seconds of silence where I knew I was supposed to be talking, but my brain was stalled. It's not that I couldn't work out what to say, it's that I couldn't work out how to speak. High-functioning autism in women displays very differently than in men, which leads to many women being underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed, often with bipolar or BDP. It is believed that due to the expectations on girls from a young age, that high-functioning autistic females learn to mask and hide the things that make them stand out better than boys, which leads to women who seem fairly normal if not a little quirky, but are trying really hard all the time to keep up this appearance. It is absolutely exhausting, and people are far less understanding when you have a meltdown because you seem so normal. That autism isn't a one-size-fits-all diagnosis. It's a very broad, non-linear spectrum, more like a color wheel than a straight line. Also, just because you might not think someone looks autistic, or you never would have guessed, doesn't mean they aren't. Chances are, those people expend a lot of energy masking their autistic traits to fit in. Reading through these comments, I'm getting worried that I might have autism. How did you who have autism find out? Speak with a doctor and try and find a professional who can identify it. And honestly, if you've lived your whole life not knowing you're autistic, it's not like finding out now is gonna fix your problems, but it might explain them. We are not all like Sheldon Cooper, Sean Murphy, Forrest Gump or other extremely autistic people in movies, series. Ugh, Sheldon is like the blackface of autism. I am going to say something that offends you. It's going to happen. I might be different, but that doesn't mean I wanna be treated any differently to anyone else. I can pay better attention to what you're saying if I'm not looking at you. So when my gaze wanders and I'm staring at the floor or the walls, or anything but you, I'm listening intently. I just can't focus on looking at you or making eye contact and understand what you are saying at the same time. If I look at you, I won't hear you. If you call me on the phone, I will also not hear you. Phones stress me out. We can either not express our emotions well, or we are extremely sensitive to emotions. We tend to notice the weirdest stuff or things in the background. Every autistic person is different. Some hate physical contact. Some love it. Some can't speak. Some can. Do not assume we are all the same ever. Ever heard of autism hiding in plain sight? Next time they want to make one of your stupid autism jokes in class, keep that in mind. Someone is sitting in there, already feel bad about having the diagnosis and being scared what people might think. It doesn't help us. It just makes us shut up even more. We are everywhere. You just doesn't see. I understand your emotions. In fact, I understand them so well that my own emotions are influenced by other people's. And other people's emotions can easily overwhelm me. Emotional states of myself and others are easy to read, especially in voice tone and expression. But I don't get your body language. At all. Yes, this isn't universal, I just get annoyed at the whole "you're all asocial. You don't understand emotions" when in fact it differs for everyone. I can read other people's emotions easily, but not everyone can. I forget to put emotions on my face sometimes. Some people I know get overwhelmed more by their own. Some can't read expression or tone like I can. Some can read body language where I go blank. We're not one size fits all. If I seem standoffish to you, it's literally because I have zero social skills and will not approach you to talk if you don't talk to me first. Please don't be one of those people who assumes autism means we have a high, low mental age. I'll be insulted if you talk to me like I'm 8. I'll be confused if you talk to me like Albert Einstein. Textures and sounds are painful. Sometimes even being touched can hurt. This world is very isolating for many of us. Some are too autistic for the NT world and some aren't autistic enough for the special needs world. No, not everyone is a little autistic. You don't understand why, how, what. Some of us may have flat tones and cannot express emotion, but we do feel. And the autism jokes sometimes make us sad and or angry. Meltdowns aren't tantrums. In a meltdown you lose all awareness and it can be very dangerous. Letting your kid get away with doing bad things when they're young because they're autistic, they don't know any better, isn't healthy. Explain why we can't or shouldn't do things, and still punish for it if it happens repeatedly. Also, don't hide a diagnosis from your kid. They'll know the difference, and knowing why is a lot less stressful. That eye contact is a weird, horrible thing, and I don't know how you people do it. Not everyone with Asperger's syndrome is out to be a jerk, and our interests or hobbies do not define our personality as people. More so, I struggle with my emotions just like everyone else, and it is not like I am not able to feel empathy. I didn't get autism from a vaccine, and even if I did, it is much better than having polio or a life-threatening illness that could come from not getting vaccinated. That Autism Speaks is a hate group. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Network is a better organization to support. If I'm asking questions that seem dumb even though I seem smart most of the time, just answer them. Sometimes all I need is the context I'm asking for to help me sort things out. You don't look autistic is the worst thing you can say. Like, yeah, I know that you would never guess that I'm autistic without me explicitly telling you that. That still doesn't mean that I'm not. If I mention that I can't tell if you're joking or serious, even if it's blindingly obvious that you were joking, I need you to bear with me when I ask. Because sometimes it is so difficult to differentiate between a joke and a serious sentiment. When I seem slow to you, it's because I need you to be more specific in what you need from me. My brain is literally unable to play the guessing game. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 11. I feel like I'm part of a play where everyone has the script except me. Having to act normal is so straining. I'm monotone and don't like being touched. But family and social pressure, including having teachers screaming in my ear to act normal. Not normal but a non-disabled normal. I'm always multitasking, acting, dealing with sensory issues, sight, sound, and touch, and doing whatever I am. It's like being in the closed for a gay person in a bigoted area, which I was. The stress broke me in different ways. I was also supposed to be the good autistic who could prove we were just as smart and worthy as normal kids. We're not all introverted. I love going out and talking to different people, trying new things. Physical activity can be difficult as we have coordination issues. I have trouble at jobs because I don't talk about my condition, as I have been terminated for it or threats of termination. The people in charge who should do something about the discrimination are usually against me, or they treat me like I'm trying to freeload off the system. I have other disabilities and doctors, teachers, etc. only tell me it could be worse instead of being helpful. There's more if this gets enough attention.